Hey guys, Brianna here. I just want to wish you guys a happy Easter and say that I miss you. I know these are some crazy times that we're living in, but the cool thing is that COVID-19 didn't surprise God, it didn't scare God. And so I hope you guys can find some peace in that. He conquered death already so many years ago on Easter. So I hope you guys have a good day, and we can all see each other again soon.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to On the Couch with Eric Oschlager. As always, here's your host, Eric Oschlager. Hi there, folks. As always, I'm your host, Eric Oschlager, and this is a screwdriver. Today on this special Easter episode, I'm here to shout out everyone's favorite junior high boys youth leader, who's neither Sam nor Ben. That's right, Evan Dietert. Evan's been a great friend to me through the years, as both a student and a leader. He's been my leader on a couple of occasions as well. Really just grateful to have him. Praise the Lord for that, right? I'll just throw in a quick anecdote about a time that Evan and I did something together. As most sixth graders do, I went to my first districts way back in 2015. Can't believe I'm that old. I'm not really that old, but it makes me feel old. But anyway, so I went to districts and it was great. I roomed with Evan, and then I had Justin was one of my leaders, and Kevin was another one of my leaders. I'm sure everyone saw Kevin in last week's installment of Virtual Fuse, and some of you probably thought, who is this guy? Why is he important? But believe me, he left an impression on all of us. It was very interesting. It was an interesting experience. On Friday night, I did get left behind at the convention center with Kevin. And it was a situational problem, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure you've heard it before, you're gonna hear it again, because it was traumatic. But that's okay, alright? And then, it was just, Evan was wonderful through the day, wonderful friend, and really just showed me how it went. That Saturday night, Tim Collier locked all the senior high boys' room keys in the senior high boys' room, except for the ones that were with Mike at the leaders meeting. And so they had to come into our room. I won't go into that much detail about what went down when they did, but let's just say that a Triscuits box was microwaved and started smoldering. It was very unfortunate, really, but it was just wonderful. Evan was just a great part of that experience, And really, even though, I look back at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, why did I ever decide to go to districts ever again? It really was just an awesome experience that showed me how great districts could be. And of course, a lot of people at Fuse really enjoy going to districts. Yeah, so really thanks, Evan. You've been shouted out by me. See you next time on the couch with Eric. That's what I'm calling this thing, right? Oh yeah, alright. So, see you now.
All right, we're here with Bengal, who is now on the second edition of the Zoom Hot Seat.
We're here with Megan, with Justin J, for our second edition of the Leader Hot Seat. What is one place that you are excited to have open again after all this is over?
I am extremely excited to sit in my work chair because my butt falls asleep after about a half hour at the kitchen table or a folding chair. So I really miss my work chair. So just going back to work and having a nice, comfortable bum holder is going to be great.
I think my answer would actually be the Pfizer Forum.
Yeah.
Just because that would mean that Bucks basketball is back, and I'm excited for that.
Everyone's going to see this one coming, but I'm excited for the Model Train Club to be open again. So technically there's nothing actually stopping me from going, but it's more of a civic duty. I know all the old stubborn people aren't going to stop going, so I need to stop going.
What is one shopping item you feel is necessary to have during this time besides toilet paper?
No, I definitely don't need this at all. My answer is definitely custard.
Salsa water, because I have one every morning.
And I guess my Switch, because that's all I've been doing is just playing Animal Crossing.
Is there a leader that you can do a good or decent impression of?
Absolutely not. I can't even do an impression of myself, so I'm not even going to try.
No, I honestly can't. I looked at this question, I was like, no. I was thinking of just like bringing up my foot with like no socks on and being like toes. That's Megan.
Okay, first it's all the hand motions. So what we need to do is listen to God so it makes sense. Does that make sense?
You got the claw in there too.
It's the claw. It's all about the claw.
Oh. What coded message would you send to signal to someone something was horribly wrong?
Oh boy.
So we have one in our household, and it's whenever anything is in trouble, we just say, assess the situation. And that's how we know something's not right.
I like how you just said it so cheerfully too. You're like, this is really bad.
I feel like it would be something along the lines of like, man, I'm really craving cheese right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because for the people that know me, they'll know that like he doesn't like cheese, something's wrong. And for the other people that don't, it's like nothing's wrong. He's from Wisconsin.
There'd be a lot of people going like, this is a good tweet or post or whatever.
The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan was pretty good interpretation.
Yes.
Your most embarrassing moment.
So when I was in college, I had my friend AJ Shu, and I think you met him, but I would see him, I'd just go, AJ Shu! I bet that picked up very well. And I would do that, and he'd be like, Justin J! Or no, he'd go, J-Bird! That's what he'd say. And I saw him in the cafeteria at college. He goes, AJ Shu! He did not turn around because it was not him. And I'm like, and then I left the cafeteria immediately. A lot of people looked at me weird. That guy eventually turned around. I was like, wait, is he talking to me? I'm like, what? Bye.
In the day when toll booths had the wooden gates, I was in my first car, and I didn't see the gate, and I ran into it and took out the gate. So I went through the toll, so I threw my money, like back in the day when you had to throw your money in the toll and you're supposed to wait for the gate. Well, I did not wait for the gate. I just went and I took out the wooden toll gate. And I looked at Darren and I said, what should I do? And he's just like, drive. Keep driving as fast as you can. So that's what I did.
This is definitely one of my most embarrassing moments. Either like 5 or 6 years old. Typically, when we go to like music class or whatever, we would be in a single file line behind our teacher. And at this point, she was in front of us and she opened the door for everyone coming through. And procedure was she'd hold the door, we all walk through, all kind of wait in line over there until she's done saying hello to everybody. But as she's doing this, she's holding the door open, kind of leaning over because we're really young, and she's saying hello, good morning, or whatever. And I got through and we were waiting in line, and I, for some reason, thought it would be hilarious if I would just spank the teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
no.
I don't know why. I was just young and dumb, and I thought it'd be the funniest thing. So I did. I spanked the teacher and thought my friends would laugh. Not a single one of them. The worst part is, like, I grew up and I was, like, friends with her son over time. So, like, as I got older, like, she would still, like, bring that up every once in a while.
Oh, gosh.
This is a Fuse classic question. It is the how would you rather die? Would you rather die from some mountain biking accident, or skydiving, or bungee jumping?
Mountain biking accident, because you die a whole lot faster. And I'm also extremely afraid of heights. So the whole bungee jumping and skydiving thing just won't work for me, because it would take a whole lot for me even to sign up for that.
Would you rather be run over by a beloved train, or punched so hard by Mike Weiss because you called him Booster Gold one time too many?
Obviously the Booster Gold one, because that joke will never get old, even though nobody gets it besides us.
Would you rather be trampled by one elephant or a colony of ants so huge that it weighs the same amount as an elephant?
I feel like the ants might be a better way. I know they'd be like, elephants more like a one quick, well, not even quick. It'd be, more of a few blows and then you're it, versus the ants are a lot. But I feel like I feel like at first it'd feel like a little bit of a massage before it would like, it sounds really weird.
I'm dying comfortably.
It feels great on my back.
Hi Fuse, this is Katie Hoban. If you have never met me, I am a former youth leader for you guys. Just wanted to wish you a very, very, very happy Easter. With everything going on right now, just remember that Christ is still in control and he loves you extremely well, even though it doesn't feel like it at the moment. And the evidence for that is just the fact that there's an empty grave. So once again, happy Easter to every one of you. I love you and I hope you're doing well. From Missouri. I just wanted to send this to you and let you know that I'm thinking of you and I'm praying for you, and I so wish that we could be together for Easter this year, but I hope that you guys are really just going to take advantage of the time that you have with your families, and that together in your homes you'll be able to just really reflect on the gift of the cross and the resurrection, and just give thanks to the Lord together, even though it looks different and it feels different. But the whole point of Easter is to give thanks to him and to glorify him. So we can definitely still do that even if we're not able to all be together. I miss you guys and I love you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all this summer.
I was telling some students, it's been a roller coaster, right? It's almost like, when you open up the Bible, it's in the middle of the Bible, it's right in the center, and you go to the Psalms, you see David, and you see, like, he's got all the feels, right? Like, yeah. I will praise you, Lord. I will extol your name. I will lift you high. I will sing songs for you. And then, like, fast forward a chapter and he's like, Lord, why are you so far away? Yeah. And where are you? And have you forgotten about me? And, he's just like, he's kind of like emotional in the Psalms. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I feel like I'm in the real life, like, Psalms of just like, I have a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening. God, you are so good. And then I'll have another time where I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening. Lord, where are you? And so, like, I'm definitely, I'm trying to allow myself to feel all the feels because I'm human, but like still knowing that there's steadiness. Like when we choose to worship God, it just brings this like, okay, Like, no matter what comes, no matter who gets sick, no matter if I get sick, or no matter like what dreams change in my life or how things get reoriented, like, I'm gonna praise you, Lord, and I'm gonna trust you, you know. You know, it's funny, I broke my leg, my tib fib and my talus when I was at Redeemer, like 10 years ago now, which is crazy to me. And I wrote a lot about suffering in that time, not realizing that like I actually had like a childhood filled with suffering too. And it's only something that I've recently been able to talk about because I just didn't know how to process it. Like, until the virus hit, I have been able to say to people, I was born a month early and I have no immune system. I have been sick my entire life. And yet, like, when it all came to a head is when I met Jesus. And he, like, I still suffered, you know, like it didn't make sense to me, like why he would allow those things. But what people kept telling me, and what I'm going to pray for you all, is that you get to tell people like the Lord loves you and he sees you and he cares. Like, he does not want it to be this way, right? Like, when God made the world, it was good. It was very good.
Yeah.
And because of the fall, like, we have things like pandemics, and I had things like weird diseases and missing a lot of school when I was little, and like being able to put a name to that like has really been healing for me in the last couple weeks. But yeah, like it can be little things, you know, like thinking that I'm gonna get married and I'm not married, and they're like, that causes suffering. Or like thinking that like I'm gonna get a degree in something and then like changing my mind, and that like, or thinking that I'm like, I got my degree in teaching and like I was like, when I got done, I just was like, this is not going how I thought it was going to. So I don't know, there's a lot. The verse that I have been gravitating toward is in the book of Job. Job 13 verse 15 says, though he slay me, yet I will put my hope in him. I will. And I feel like Job is a man who endured a lot of suffering. Asking God why is scary. I don't like, we feel like we're not supposed to ask him like questions. Yeah. We're just supposed to trust him. Well, like, we're allowed to ask him questions too, you know? I think the only thing I would want to say is that whenever you feel like you're asked the question, do you trust the Lord? That every single time you say yes, it is worth it. And so no matter what the cost is, no matter when the pandemic is over, you know, whatever comes in your life, you may not be asked it directly, but like saying yes to Jesus is always worth it. It is always worth it, no matter the cost. And ways you can pray are that God would continue to move, because he's moving and he's bringing out the best in people, and he is using people that know him and don't to bring hope and light to a world. But I'm pray that like God would raise up people in the church to show people who Jesus is, and to do that in a way that is fully submitted to authority, right? Like, so there's tension because we want to social distance and we want to like honor people who have illness or like could get sick. Yep. And yet like there's so much creativity that God can give us and is giving us. So pray that like in my community that would happen, and that the Lord would help me to know when to be still, and when to just go for it, you know, because it's both for me, and both are hard, you know, like both can be hard. So just that, like, I guess God would meet me in the stillness.
Happy Easter Sunday, Fuse. I know that this has been one of the weirdest Easter Sundays we may ever experience. I still hope that today has been a good time to celebrate with family and to celebrate the resurrection, because there is certainly a lot to celebrate and a lot to give thanks for. We conclude our Theology of Suffering series on a fitting weekend. As we have wrestled and talked about what it is to deal with suffering in this time, we are reminded on the Easter weekend that our God knows a thing or two about dealing with suffering. Because through suffering, God was able to redeem all people and forgive their sins, past, present, and future. Through suffering, God was able to bring victory, even though it looked like defeat. Through suffering in a world that is looking for ways to cope with pain, God gives us the tools to be overcomers because of what Jesus did, not only just on the cross, but then also on the resurrection a few days later. And all of this was accomplished by Jesus himself as he endured physical, emotional, and spiritual pain. So when we think about God understanding suffering, we're not talking about some distant deity that has no idea what we're going through. Rather, we're talking about a God who made himself flesh, who dwelled among us. And so he can relate to us, especially when we go through times of pain and times of suffering. And what he shows us through the resurrection is that suffering and pain do not have the last word in the grand scheme of things. For us on the day today, on this side of things, even though we're still going to endure pain and suffering, and even though we're still going to weep and we're still going to grieve, what we have as followers of Christ that unbelievers don't have is the hope that there is victory for us at the end of the day. I love what Pastor Tim Keller says about this. Suffering takes away the loves, joys, and comforts that we rely on to give life meaning. How can we maintain our poise, even our peace and our joy when that happens? And he says, the answer is that we can do that only if we locate our meaning in things that can't be touched by death. You know, we've talked about how our world has a lot of beauty in it, but we've also talked about its brokenness. And in the end, this world is going to someday pass. And I'm not saying it's going to pass right now, but we know someday it is going to end, whether we're alive for it or not. But what we can take hope in as believers is that no matter what we see in pain and suffering, sickness and death, those things do not have the last word. So what we can do as followers of Jesus, even when we go through times of pain and suffering, we can look back to the cross and trade our despair and trade our sadness for hope and joy and victory that is found in the cross. This is what Jesus says in Matthew, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So for those of us in Christ, for those of us who know him, who have been saved by him, saved by grace, no matter what happens in this world, we don't pass away either. And that is really good news, because when we look in times of pain and suffering, there's just all this bad news, there's all this finality. The good news for believers is that our story won't end here. Death does not have the last word, and that is some good news. And this is the promise that God gives to us. This is the joy in our hearts that we can have even when we go through a hard time of pain and suffering. This mini-series was pulled together a little last minute, but my hope is that this has been helpful for you to wrestle and process well as we go through this. And we would love to talk about other things besides suffering. We want you to know for sure that as you go through a time of pain and suffering, whether it's from COVID-19 or something else in your life, know this: you are not alone as you endure this. And this is the beauty of God's community that he gives us, is that we are never alone as we navigate through these things together. And so from all of us here at Fuse, from all of us here at Redeemer Church, know this: whatever suffering you're feeling right now, realize that you do not have to walk through it alone. And we're here with you through it all.
Hello. If you don't know me or remember me, my name is Tim Collier, and 3 years ago I was also a Fuse student. I would just like to say that I think it is awesome that you all are still taking the time to grow and learn about Jesus, especially during this lockdown when it has become so much harder to do normal things like go to church and see each other weekly. I want to encourage you to continue to run with perseverance the race marked out for us, as it says in Hebrews, especially today when we remember that Jesus is more powerful than anything, even a virus, even death. Happy Easter, Fuse, and remember, He is risen.
Well, we hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. We put this together as a way to, even though we're not able to be presently together, to still celebrate what God has given us in terms of our student community, in terms of our friends and family. And so until the time that we can be together again, we just want you to know that from us here at Fuse, we love you. And we look forward to, at some point here soon, hopefully, being together in the same space, to worshiping God, to having a lot of fun, and being able to get back to some sense of normalcy. But at the same time, as we look at this, let's not miss what God is doing in this season. Let us not miss out on the opportunity to spend more time with Him, to spend more time with one another, and to do some impactful ministry. And to be like our Jesus who walked and lived among us and gave His life for us. Blessings.
And now it's time for Quarantined with Liam. What's Liam gonna do this week?
I've lost my mind. We've entered week 4 of quarantine now, and I don't like it. It's gross. Why it began? Well, I don't really know. But then it spread and grew so strong. It came in spring. Now they've shut down the summer. No one believed you come along. And wash your hands. Don't reach out. Don't touch me. Don't touch you. COVID one night. The bad times will someday get good. We've been inclined to believe they never would, but now I look at the kids. Some of them are really bored, and they sing a virus song. Sore throat and chills, runny nose and a fever. And why is there no toilet paper? I don't get that. It's weird. Warm, touch no one. Don't reach out. Stay at home. That we need to. COVID one night. The bad times will someday get good. We've been inclined to believe they never would, but now I apologize if that wasn't good. I'm tired.
Wow, that was awesome! Thanks, Liam. Now for some embarrassing photos courtesy of Liam's mom, Maureen. Surprise! Happy Easter, Liam, and happy Easter, Fuse Student Ministries.